So today we're going to work on a project that I've wanted to do for a long time, and that is to can some roast beef.
Yes.
Just plain roast beef that we can use kind of like we use our ground meat, ground beef for different quick, easy meals. The local grocery store had chuck roast on sale, buy one, get one free yesterday when I stopped by, and I thought, hey, this is the perfect opportunity. There's also been some comments on videos, some of your canning videos recently that I've never pressure canned, and I'm afraid. So we thought, why not bring you guys along and show you guys the process of pressure canning today with this roast beef to make a quick and easy meal. And since I don't have a whole lot of experience with pressure canning and canning in general, Rachel does most of it. She's here with me today to help give me some guidance to make sure I don't screw this up and give you guys bad information.
There you go. I'll help with the jarring.
Sweet.
He's the master cutter, as you guys know, so cutting is all him.
Yep, so what we're going to start with is Rachel has all of our jars already washed from early this morning. They're ready to go. Pressure canner is here on the stove behind us. We're going to start by cutting up all of this meat into about 1 inch by 1 inch cubes, removing any heavy fatty areas. You can see like right here there's a lot of fat. If you end up with too much fat in your jars, that might not seal.
Right.
We're also going to season our meat with some Montreal steak seasoning as we go. So
yeah, I'm excited.
we wash up one more time and we'll get cutting. We'll start with this easy side first over here and separate that. Sometimes with these roasts you can just do a lot of pulling with your fingers and sections will come apart pretty easy. I've cut a lot of meat over the years. I spent probably 8 years working in restaurants over the years, and one restaurant in particular that I worked at, we would buy the majority of all of our meat in big chunks. So you know, like porterhouse steaks, T-bone steaks, it would come one big huge loin, and we had a meat saw. We would cut it all on our own equipment, size it, weigh it. This little silver skin sinew stuff, make sure you get that stuff off because that stuff can be nasty. And for the harder side, you're going to end up with chunks of meat that are connected with some fatty tissue, and here's some more of that silver skin. And just trim off a little bit of this and you'll be good. Big chunk like this on the end, this fat, this is probably just going to end up as waste. Or we'll toss it in a bag and stick it in the freezer for some time when we make up some beef stock. So this started off as about 12 pounds of chuck roast. Once I removed the fat and some of the silver skin, tendon, tough stuff, we ended up with, I think, maybe about 10 pounds. There's about 2 pounds of waste that will freeze. It's not super important that you get rid of all the fat, it's just like the big chunks of fat. So there's some that has like little pieces of fat in it. That's okay, that's just going to add flavor.
Yep.
So I brought Rachel back and it's ready to pack the jars.
Did you tell him what seasonings we're using?
No. You can make this plain. You don't have to add any seasonings at all. We're going to add it because to make it a little bit more of a
go-to meal.
Fast food. You can take a spoon and eat it right out of the jar if you wanted, or dump it in a pan and warm it up. So we're going to add 1 teaspoon to each pint jar of Montreal steak seasoning on the top once we get it packed in.
Yep, you could add garlic, you could add onions, you can really, it's your choice. We're choosing Montreal steak seasoning just because that's our most frequently used seasoning when it comes to beef like this.
It's pretty generic because basically the bulk of it is salt and pepper. So.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so we're just going to take these and pack them down in there.
Yep. And you want 1 inch headspace, so this bottom ring on the jar,
Down here?
Yep, that get if you
So
just
keep it below that?
Yep.
Now, different cuts of beef, depending on how it was raised, will... So this is the process that we're doing today, is cold packing, right?
Raw packets.
Raw packing. So we're taking raw meat and we're packing it in jars. And another way that you could do this, you could cook all this up first.
You could.
And hot pack it. But for simplicity and ease, we're taking this route today. But both methods, hot pack and raw pack, still require a pressure canner, right?
That's right, yes.
So we're not going to add any water or broth of any kind to this. We're just going to let the meat make its own. So when it's done, there could be a gap in how much liquid there is in the bottom of the jar. There might be this much, it might be full. It just depends on the beef and how it was raised and how juicy it is and how much fat you left in there. Because it'll make its own juice as it cooks.
Okay, we ended up with 10 pints of our chuck roast, and I'm just adding a teaspoon of the Montreal steak seasoning. And then what we'll do is we will wipe down the rims with some vinegar to make sure there's no like fat from our fingers and the meat on it. Okay, when you screw on your lids, you just want to go finger tight. And what I always wondered, what did that mean? And basically, when you're screwing it, when your fingers don't go anymore, that's enough. You don't want to have to do an extra push, just finger tight, that's it.
Rachel got her pressure canner out for us. She added about 2 inches of water to the bottom. We do have somewhat hard water, even though we do have city water here where we live, so we always add a little splash of vinegar. What it will prevent is, if you have really hard water, and you can, sometimes you'll end up with this white film on the outside of your jars, and the vinegar will help remove that. The water's not boiling yet, but that's perfectly fine. We can put our jars in now. With our jars in, we're ready to put our lid on. Lock it in. It's going to take a little while to come up to temperature before it'll start venting out the little vent hole here, which is perfectly fine. That's something that you have to do. Once this starts venting and you get steam coming out, you're going to let that steam continue to come out like that for about 10 minutes. Well, at least 10 minutes before you put your weight on top. So it's been venting for 10 minutes now. Venting meaning steam coming out of the hole. Now we can add our weight. Be careful, don't burn yourself. At this point we're at our elevation, we need to pressure can this at 10 psi, so we're going to let this gauge come up to 10. Once it comes up to that point, we're going to lower the temperature on our burner to a point where it keeps this stable at 10. You don't want to let it drop below 10, and you don't want to let it go higher than 10, so play around with your stove, figure out what's going to work good for you.
So we're at 10 pounds. I knew that right away. My back was to the canner. The more and more you pressure can, you're going to get to understand the sound that it makes in your environment when it's at pressure. So, you're also going to learn your stove down to the eye that you always can on, where you need to set your temperature. I know mine is exactly at the second dot from low, and that's going to hold my pressure. Now we're just going to set the timer for 70 minutes and let it can.
Well, it's done. It's been 70 minutes. Next thing you do, leave this alone, turn off your heat, and watch your pressure gauge until it goes down to 0. Don't touch it, don't do anything until that goes down to 0. It could take a little while. Well, it took about 30 minutes for the pressure to finally come all the way down to 0. And then what you have to wait for is the little locking mechanism. It prevents you from being able to open the lid while it's still under pressure. It's one of the safety mechanisms. It's all done.
I'm excited to see it.
The smells pretty amazing. It smelled up the whole house like roast beef.
Oh, nice. Yeah, nice. That really made a lot of juice.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, it smells so good.
So pressure canning, it's really nothing to be like afraid of. It's really not that hard. You do want to make sure you have a good pressure canner. Don't use like your grandma's that's been down in her basement for the last 30 years. Make sure it's something modern. The gauges are safe, the pressure release valves are safe, and follow the USDA guidelines for length of time and amount of pressure based on your elevation. You have any more tips?
No. I'm proud of you for doing it for the first time.
Yeah, now I know how. Thanks for teaching me.
Yeah. But guys, stay tuned because after he wraps up here, I've been working on another winter canning video behind us. So I'll have that out soon so you guys can have some more winter ideas on what to can when nothing's growing.
Right. When you get stuff cheap, you find like roast beef, buy one, get one free, chicken thighs, chicken breasts.
Yeah.
Somebody gives you a bunch of ground beef.
Yeah.
All that stuff can be canned and preserved and make some good treats.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions about pressure canning, if you're still nervous, leave them down in the comments and Rachel will answer them for you.
Talk to you guys later.
Bye, guys.